Welcome to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about how the best professional services firms grow. Whether you're looking to scale your firm or learn from the stories of founders and leaders who've done it, you're in the right place. Join us as we interview the best leaders in professional services. Let's get on with the show. Julian, welcome to the Principals Podcast. Happy to have you.
Good day. Thank you for having me, man. What a great intro. I love the music.
Thanks. We do our best. We try our best, at least. Julian, tell us the story. What pulled you into the fantastic, yet sometimes a bit stressful world of coaching, operational leadership, and most importantly, in the service business space?
Yeah. Well, it started with being a service professional. I actually started as a plumbing apprentice. I was in the field, and then I learned the operations of residential home services in the trades, and did that for a period of time. But as I grew a business and exited the business, there was a company that had helped me grow, helped me scale, helped me understand business, and that was Nexstar Network. So that's what I'm wearing and representing today. Nexstar Network is a member-owned coaching and training organization for residential services. And part of it, to be really direct with you, is after running a business like this, there's a lot of exposure. And it was nice to know that if at 5 p.m. I could turn my phone off and I could leave it off as a consultant, that sounded like the life for me. So after running these businesses for decades, I wanted to become a consultant. And, the good sounding side is I wanted to help a lot of people. And while that's true, the self-serving side is, it'd be nice to have your weekends back. It's nice to have your evenings back when you don't have people out there running calls and homeowners calling you at all hours. And it's a great business, but that's why I shifted into coaching and consulting. And Nexstar had meant so much to me and helped me so much. That's the place I wanted to be. So that's the quick version, and you can unpack anything you like along the way.
I love this. I'm in the works of getting my weekends back. So yes, I can relate to this one. Maybe a quick tangent already. Do you feel it's necessary as a coach? So you're basically helping the businesses now that you used to be in the shoes of
Yes.
in the previous life.
Yes.
Would you say this is something essential? Like, how much are you drawing from your own experience when you now coach those people, or is it possible to be a coach without having been a player before? What are your thoughts on this?
No, I love the question, because with the wide range of folks that you would have listening, this is an important conversation. So you have, as a business owner, I felt very exposed. You have all these professionals, people approach you as a coach. Am I a leadership coach? Am I an executive coach? Am I a personality coach? Or am I an industry coach? And I think there's some great distinctions. There are some wonderful, wonderful groups out there that have basic business rhythm coaching. Meaning, here's the cadence, here's how you run a meeting, here are the things you talk about. And there are even others who can be practical relative to budgeting or, other cadences in the business. And to get, bullseye on the question you asked, though, at Nexstar Network, our coaches and consultants must have industry experience. So I think and I know that there's a lot of great resources out there of coaching in general, whether it can be your perception, your blind spots, your leadership, or whether it's basic financial fundamentals. But understanding the nuance of these operations does make a difference. Understanding the percentage of what your revenue should be in material, or percentage of material should be relative to revenue. In plumbing service is different than a plumbing install. It's different in HVAC service than it is in HVAC install. And so, there's some things that, and I call coaching asking questions. So I do ask our consultants to start as coaches and to finish as consultants, which simply means, in my language, begin by asking questions, be curious. And that's what a coach does. But then I always joke that you must end the call by consulting, because I can ask you all day what you think your percentage of materials should be relative to revenue and plumbing service. You don't know. So at some point I have to be prescriptive. And that's why in certain cases, and at least at Nexstar, it makes sense for us to have industry expertise. There's value in all coaching. Understand what you're doing and using it for. And when it comes to your industry, you're looking for benchmarks and relative, whether it's aggregated information or real world information. I do encourage you to have industry specific groups for that.
Yeah. Amen to that. So tell us more about the specific problem that you help contractors with right now. Like, what is it that you help them achieve exactly? I understand the approach, but for what goal?
Yeah, I think it's important to give you context with who we serve as well. Nexstar's mission, as written, is to help the world's best tradespeople become the world's best business people. So by its own definition, we're telling you now that we're not dealing with, in general, hyper mature businesses or hyperly large or scaled businesses. We are solely focused on, from our founding, helping the tradesperson, the contractor, generally the person who was in a truck not long ago, or maybe it was generational, that understand the trades but may not have business acumen. So with that in mind, the things that we focus on are really very, and I'll call them foundational business practices. Some things that if you miss, you can have a really horrible experience in business. And by simply paying attention to them and maybe a few degrees of flexing, you can actually see compounding returns. So some of the things that we address and we help people focus on, and I encourage your listeners to think about this in their business, regardless, are you priced right? Are you priced right? First, let's start there. What's your strategy? Are you calling your competitor? Do you think you'll only do what the market can bear? Are you actually thinking about the business you want to build, thinking about the way you want your office to look, the benefits you want to provide for employees, the education you need to place back into your employees, and then structuring your pricing from there? I'm giving you a few breadcrumbs along the way of how we encourage people to think about how they build their pricing. And again, I don't think anything's wrong, but I do often, and especially in our industry, see folks worry about what another competitor is charging. Homeowners will tell you, you're twice as much as somebody else. And that can be really true in our industry. I think maybe a little bit more than others, where we have folks who are not, don't have a strong business pedigree and therefore aren't in business as long because they don't think this way. Outside of that, we're thinking operational procedures and workflows and SOPs, and at what growth stage do you add headcount? How do you recruit? How do you retain? What are the benefit packages? So it gets really tactical as well. But we're at that stage. I call Nexstar more of an accelerator than an incubator. And it's our greatest privilege that as we watch members mature, we've seen them take on investors. We've seen them turn to ESOPs. We've seen them to hand over generationally. And that's really the graduation that we look for. So I just wanted to be clear in the context. When I talk about the problems we solve, they're very specific to the stage of the journey that a business would be in.
Maybe a bit of a cheeky question for you, Julian. So I love the context. This makes sense. Helping the best trade people become the best business people. My question to you is that something they want in the first place? Don't trade people just want to be trade people and, do actually the thing that they love doing.
Yeah, many of them do, and they're not going to be great fits for Nexstar. So I'll return the cheekiness here for how maybe potential prospects, but I would say maybe even more so for the praise of the members that we do have. Part of the onboarding process does involve looking at financials, looking at the health of the business. We would hate for someone to make this investment and they're not ready for it. But we also look at how they structure their day and if they will have the time to implement and integrate the services and the products that we have. And another component, though, and that's what I hear you getting at, is mindset. It's mindset. We have literally turned people away, and I'll say this really directly, for being jerks. If you're a know-it-all, you don't want to join the group and help other people figure business, because we're called Nexstar Network. We're about bringing people together. We want people who are coming curious, but also willing to share with others. We appear, and we are really smart, and I use the word appear because we gained our wisdom through listening to our 1,000+ members and gaining perspective and putting together, themes and trends that we're noticing. And granted, our staff is extremely smart as well, but we're only as smart as the collective. So to answer your question, there are folks specifically in our trades who will tell us, hey, I just want to, there's even people out there who will say, Nexstar is a scam, because the way that we encourage you to price is to build a business that will be here for decades. And some tradespeople say, I just want to mark it up a little and do a good job and have a little money in the bank. What we want to encourage those folks to think about, what happens when, inflation jumps outside of your control? What happens when there's a recession? We want you to have great businesses that continue to serve your community, but you have to grow into a business person. And if you want to stay a tradesperson, I think you should stay an employee. So there you go. It's a little bit of maybe a polarizing response, but I want to be clear about how we think about it.
No, that's very good. Obviously, I'm asking because I'm interested into this perspective as well for my own business. So it's always interesting to hear how you tackle that specific parts of the avatar, let's just say. So how do you what has worked for you, Julian, to get those people who want to go from trade people to business people, ideally the best ones? What has worked for you on Nexstar to get, I'm not talking about sales just yet, but really people through the door, people knocking on the door, people being like, hey, this might be something we're interested in. What works for you marketing-wise?
Yeah, we're 3 decades strong, and I have to be really honest in owning. There was a period of time, I would say probably about 7 years ago, where all of our new members were about, or all of the leads that we had were about 70 to 80% referrals. Today, as there are more options and as you can understand, more emerging talking heads and even some emerging well-seasoned professionals, our referral rate has dropped closer to about 47, still close to 50%. But it's having us create more need for better marketing to tell our story. But what it is it really is success through our membership and telling the story of the successes they've had. So I think our best marketing is really the testimonial of the people that we've assisted and the story that it tells. I'll tell you that we had a third of our existing membership exit the membership last year because they took on private equity investors, and we weren't built to serve the enterprise scale at that level. But people saw that and they said, wow, if I want to get multiples, if I want to be in a great position someday, Nexstar can help me do that. And we also have legacy businesses that are great long-standing businesses and communities, and folks say, how'd you get there? And we're very fortunate that they'll say Nexstar helped us get there. So it really is about, I think, birds of a feather, and the testimonial of what members have experienced through working with Nexstar over the decades is our number one marketing strategy.
So I love this. Tell me more. How do you? So it's one thing to have extremely happy clients, and I think most people listening to us right now, so high ticket professional services firm owners, they grow initially thanks to word of mouth and referral because they do an exceptional job. The difficulty that a lot of them face is how to advertise that exceptional job to people that those this network doesn't know. So advertising testimonials the right way. So what have you put in place, or how do you handle that part? How do you get someone to give you a testimonial, either written, video, in a call? How do you capture them, market them, and put them out there for other people like them to see? Is my question.
Very good. So it's a mix of tactics and strategy, but in general, the strategy is capture the member's message and capture it with emotion. We do hold in-person events, and as you can imagine, that's a great time. We have 3 days together. They're around their peers. They're being introduced to new ideas. Their victories are being exposed, as well as they are being challenged, and you catch them in that emotional state. And what our team has now, I won't be able to speak to it with specificity, but I'd be happy to have our marketing team follow up with you. But I believe it's a 7-step question, but there's really only 3 questions that you kind of lean into. You don't want to overwhelm people with a questionnaire. So it is scripted, and you just ask them a few things here about what it's meant to them, how it's impacted their business, the business results that they've seen, because you want to capture that emotion that they're experiencing. But we found it's really important to us that we capture a metric. What I don't want is this feel good. I walked on fire. I can do anything now, and you can do it too. And just look in the mirror and tell yourself you're beautiful and it's going to work out. Yeah, yeah. I want some of that. Okay. But what I really want is, prior to this class, we were spending 15% on marketing and we were closing on 50% of our leads. After this, we're spending 8% on marketing. We're closing on 80% of our leads. And it happened because we had a plan. It happened because our coaches helped us understand strategy. It happened because I put a point person who now leads the campaigns. I understand what metrics to watch. So it is that mix of emotion I would offer in your testimonials going forward. There's a theory out there to make your customer the hero, and we believe that. So we sprinkle in the metrics of the impact that we've made, but we always want to make the person on camera the hero, that they're the ones who went through the hero's journey. They're the ones who had the challenge. We love to be the guide or the sage. I'll nerd out for half a second and just say, if you think Star Wars, we'd much rather be the Yoda or the Obi-Wan, and we want you to be the Luke and the Leia, because you're the ones doing the, hey, watch out now. I don't know. I guess he won't see this before that, but I'm sneaking and taking one of my sons to Grogu before it comes out. I haven't told him. I'm taking him out of school early tomorrow. I'm going to take him there. He fell in love with The Mandalorian. I wasn't into it. I started watching it with him. Now I'm all in. I'm way off track, but let us be let us be the guy, but let you be the hero in your testimonials, is what I'd offer. Way to pull me off topic there with the crochet.
Yeah.
I love it. Love them.
So for the people listening to this, you need to watch the video. The reason Julian was started laughing is because I have a Grogu little figurine. Actually, I don't know how to say this in English, but my sister built this one and made it herself. I was like, now it's next to me. I love the Mandalorian and Grogu as well.
Yeah, we call them crochet, just
crochet,
for the visual listening. It's a cute little knit thing. And he
Actually,
pulls it out while I'm talking. Come on, man. How am I going to stay focused? It's a little
I was like,
Grogu.
this is so spot on. So just to say, I love the Star Wars reference, Julian. So makes a lot of sense. In-person events, this is where you get people to not only get even more value, but network with other people like them. And this is when you can capture a good testimonial, a good interview with those people. Absolutely love it. Talk to me about talk to me about sales, Julian. One of the things that you mentioned is referrals started going down, and it's just the nature of the biz. Honestly, we've seen this through all high-ticket professional services firms, just because competition is increasing, right? So, how do you how do you sell? How do you move the needle from people knocking on the door, seeing a testimonial, hearing from your guys and from Nexstar to a call, a sales conversation, an engagement, a letter of engagement, an SOW? How do you do that?
Yeah, so we deploy some of the strategies that are introduced by Robert Cialdini in his book Influence. I would encourage business owners and leaders out there to really consider Cialdini's work. And the reason that we love Cialdini so much is he talks about ethical influence, and that's really important to us. All of these psychological tactics can be deployed. It's how you deploy them is what makes the difference. And so we deploy some tactics like scarcity. Nexstar, when founded, it was considered by our founding members that it would be proprietary. So Nexstar, as it's built, there can only be one member in a given area per 300,000 people of the population. So we take census data, we look at the area, and we say per your population, there can only be X amount of numbers. Now, in a highly populated area like New York City, then we go into counties because we don't want to stack members on top of each other. But I say all that to say this: whatever your business model is, I like to break businesses down to two simple categories. It's either volume based or value based relative to sales. So it's either volume based or value based. So now we're in this position of being value based, meaning we can't be volume. We cannot be volume per our own bylaws. So I tie all that back to your question here to say, what are some of the tactics we deploy? Well, scarcity. There's a limited number of seats. Social proof. As I mentioned before, the testimonials of other people in your market or other people in the industry that have joined us, and wow, look at the results that they've had. And then that selective criteria of curating who's in the room, which is a little bit to scarcity, but it's also, this may not be your cup of crazy. It may not, and that's okay. There's a lot of consultants that can help you grow if grow is your goal, or there are a lot of investors that can help you mature into a business person if that's your goal. But if you want to be part of a community and part of something connected, I think being really clear about what you're for and what you're not for helps the sales process. Having truly curious professionals that really believe in our mission is important. And if your mission, and I want to say this really clearly, if your mission is volume based and you say, I want to have 10,000 ads by the end of the year, and we're going to have it no matter what we have to do. You're going to work evenings and weekends, and you're going to cold call people, and you're going to keep calling them until they hang up on you. Just be clear about that. Be clear about that. Be clear in your culture. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying be clear. So at Nexstar, I don't want to speak to what we have as it's better than anything, but what I want you to get clearly is we are hyper clear and defined from our guiding principles, which is what we call our core values, that those will judge our decisions and our behaviors, and then we can run full speed at everything we do. So I'll take a step back to your question and say, be really clear in defining who you are and how you behave, and then lean into some of these principles. And those are just some things that came to mind that I thought I'd share with you. What does that create for you, or what's next?
I love it, and that makes sense. I think we are, especially in our space, I think we are entering more and more in an era of consultative selling, into an era of trust recession. I mean, I had a guest say this on the show a couple of months ago, and I love it. It's like anybody can claim anything on the internet nowadays. That's why I wanted to drill a little bit more into the testimonial part, because I mean, and we see it everywhere. Jordan P, Alexander F, and it's like, yeah, sure. Like, what does that even mean? So one of the things when it comes to the testimonial that we try to do for ourselves and our clients is, hey, put the clients on camera, get the consent to actually put the full name, the link to the company, the link to the work that you've done, because it's so hard to build trust because people have been burned before. So this approach that you're describing, Julian, of like building that relationship, saying, hey, we are like, those are our strengths, and this is what we, pardon my French privilege, kick ass at. And those are the things where this might not be a good fit for you, and you should know before you engage in that. Something that you're using, that you mentioned, that I think too few high-ticket professional services firm owners use, is scarcity. And there is literally a limit to the amount of service you can provide, because it's people mainly. So including that into your marketing and sales, murders. It's like, hey, look, We only have 10 spots opening per month. We're already at 7. No pressure. If it's not this month, it will be the one after. But just so you know, we are limited in seats, and that increases the value intrinsically of what you're offering as well. And now I'm going on a rant, but all this to say, yes, I loved your answer, Julian. Talk to me about retention. I have a certain respect for businesses that are doing business successfully and growing for like multiple decades, because it shows that they've understood something about whatever the technology ends up being, whatever the environment ends up being, whatever the worldwide context ends up being, they keep doing business and grow. So how do you retain customers? How do you build on that? What's your thought process on, once you've signed a deal, keeping people in the network?
I'm going to tie back a little to what we were just discussing, to the retention. Very proud to say our retention has been at 96.7. We say 97% for over a decade. But to your point, how do you get there? I think it's almost in the same way that you retain the talent in your business. It goes back to your recruiting, your onboarding. So recruiting first, let's talk about that. Even if we're talking about talent or a prospect, really being slow there, being intentional, making it a two-way street. When we bring talent on, we have a casual phone call. So this is similar to the sales process. So I'll just encourage people listening to just put these things together as I talk about our talent recruiting, but you can also think about your prospect recruiting. So we have a casual phone call first. It's a sales process. It's a step. We have our formal interview where we get into the tactics. Then we have what we call the recruiting day or headquarters day. We bring the person in, we ask them to take a day, hang out in our offices. They'll meet people that are not all leaders, ask the same question of different people. I think the number one thing that I would offer to folks to consider, and this is going to tie back to retention, I promise you, it's trust your intuition, trust your gut. So I'll always tell somebody that we're recruiting, I think the thing that is lost in the recruiting process is logic versus emotion. An interview is all logical, right? We're asking you what you did and who you did it, what your results, and who did you report to. We don't ask you a lot how you felt about your work. We do, obviously, because the Nexstar, we're a little bit different. And we mix that in. But what I ask them to do is on their recruiting day, and ask all the logical questions, but to trust their intuition, because they'll leave the recruiting day, they'll go to sleep. And I believe that during your sleep, in your REM sleep, your brain separates the critical things, but it holds on to some things too. So it's going to, get rid of some superficial things like what color were the chairs, what color was the paint on the wall, but it'll give you feelings. And I think people should lean back more into their gut. And I think that's what retention speaks to here, is what is the intent of the interaction that you're having with our employees? Nexstar in our industry has the largest number of full-time employees in our industry consultatively. What I've seen in other consultative organizations, and this is going to blow some of your minds if you're in professional services, most of you all have contracted employees and they're consultants, and that's great. Nexstar made an intentional decision that every coach, every employee we have will be full-time. They're not consultants, they're not 1099, so that makes it a little bit more difficult from a financial perspective, but it builds trust. Which then ties back to retention. So what am I saying here when I tie it back to our recruiting process? Very slow to bring that talent on, very slow to bring the prospect on, very intentional with the tenure that we have with a business to say, Guillaume, I understand that your focus right now, from what I've heard you say, you really want to focus on more leads. But as I look at the statistics of your business, Guillaume, I got to tell you, I think you have more of a conversion problem. And I'm really uncomfortable helping you get more leads until we fix this conversion problem. Having those tough conversations and then giving you the solutions. Here are some things that we can address here to help you with conversion. If you'll go on this journey with me for 3 months, here's the numbers that we should see. And if we see it, Guillaume, have I earned the right to talk to you about what else I see? And so it's really this partnership. I have a joke here, and I just want to offer this for the listeners as well in professional services. If you offer training events, and training events for us mean a 1-day or a 3-day event, we believe that training transfers belief, and that's all it does. It does not change behavior. It simply transfers belief. But we believe that the coaching is where the changes come from. So your trainer has 3 days with you. They introduce a topic. They challenge you. They get you motivated, excited. You walk out of there, woohoo. And then you go home and business hits you. Oh boy, what am I going to do? Well, that's where you have your coach. So that's where we have the 1-2 punch here, where we can help transfer and shift belief, not only in the leader, but their staff as well. And they appreciate us for saying the things that they've been saying all along. But when we say it, their employees hear it differently. But then they have the coach that will go along with them to help implement, to help guide, to help be there with them. And so I joke that our trainers are like dates, because I can be charming for 3 days for sure on a date, and that their coach is like a marriage. We're going to really find out where you hid that money, or where you're actually leaking money, or what employee is unhealthy. And we have to have those conversations to have a great relationship. So all very, very long-winded answers to say retention is tied to so many things. And I really think it's tied to the depth of the conversations you have, even more so than results. I'm going to repeat that. The depth, the transparency, the vulnerability in the conversations you have, because Chat GPT can get you results. It can tell you what to do to move a metric, but the retention comes from, because people go from Chat GPT to Claude to OpenAI to whatever's next, right? There's no loyalty there. Well, it's because it's transactional. What you had with us is also somebody that sent a card when your dog died. We know how much that impacts a family. We sent a card when the kid graduated. It's so much more than transactional with us, but we'll still, kind of get you in line when we see you getting off path. Long-winded. I hope that was additive. Got me going there.
I love it. And I like the way you roll, Julian. So I'm going to ask a little bit of a curveball question now, if you don't mind. You guys have figured out one thing or two that seems to be working really, really well. You've been doing it for a long time. You've been climbing up the ladder as well at Nexstar, and it's interesting to see how one can really build an amazing career by getting successes for their clients. What is your number one challenge right now? What is the one that you're trying to crack, that once you crack, you're going to take the whole thing to the next level? What is even the next level goal? What would that be for you?
Cool. I'm going to honor you and your guests by telling you the truth, right? I can make up
Appreciate it.
I can make up something sexy here. I got to tell you the truth. My mind was, kind of filtering between, do I give them the sexy answer or the truth? And the truth is this, because I really want you all to do the same in your businesses right now. So I've thrown out our retention number. We have grown year over year. We have great cash reserves. We have a great investment reserve. We have all these great things, right? The reality is that we had incrementally grown for years, and we've seen a surge of growth here in the past 5 years. And the truth is, my shortcoming, my challenge, and I'm using the I and me right here because this is something that I have to figure out through the support of my team that will benefit the organization. I'm going to tell you right now, Guillaume, I'm great at growing things. Now catch this. I'm not great at scaling. There's a huge distinction. Grew revenue, grew the member count, grew the staff. And guess what I did? I created a lot of noise. Because I started running this organization. I kept running this organization in the investments and the strategies that I was leading. And the same way when we were 50 employees, as now we're over 100. And that does not feel good as an employee. Things do not scale well. So the revenue came, the members came, we feel good, but why does it feel bad? Why does it feel cumbersome? Why does it feel so hard? And we have this gusto attitude. We have this hard work and hustle attitude. But you have to mature as a business. So in the same way that our mission says that we will help the tradespeople become business people, the reality is I had to look in the mirror. And say, I have all these great people. Why are they stressed? Why am I feeling so much more resistant than I ever have historically? Well, we didn't mature the organization. I'll give you a few examples here, guys, because I know I'm talking, just using words, but let's bring it down here to an operational level. Disconnected systems, gang. Disconnected systems. I'll tell you right now, 30 years in, 100 employees serving over 700 businesses. You can imagine where we're at revenue-wise, but guess what? We still don't have one CRM. What? I have 3 different CRMs right now. Oh, come on, man. That's 101 stuff, right? Well, we did fine without it. We did okay. Okay. Somebody tell me we have a member engagement score. So we keep a score on services and interactions with others and giving back to others and participation. And we give them a score. Well, depending on which department I asked, I was getting different scores. They were weighing things differently. So these little subtleties, right? And again, when there's 50 of you, we can figure that out through a conversation. When there's 100 of you running full speed to serve members, now it's something that you said earlier that I'm going to tie back into, but it's internal. There's a trust issue. Why, when I ask this department, and then as a senior leader, I start looking at you different when you're leading your department. I think you're doing it to get over on me, to get something you want and your budget worked in. But the reality is they're just looking at it through a different lens. And it was our job, my responsibility, to define what the KPIs are, define how they're measured, define where the source of truth is. So right now we're on a journey. We have what we're calling our data layer project, where we're getting things connected. We have a big ERP project. So it's not sexy. but the customer will feel the impact. In our language, we'll call it the member. They're going to feel the impact of us focusing more on scalability for the ease of our employees to better serve them. But I love the question, because what I see is aspiration in the challenge. When you said, when we unlock it, boy, are we really going to take off? I got so focused on growing this place the past 4 years. I created a lot of headache, a lot of bottlenecking, that it's going to take us a couple years here to unpack, to reorganize. It's not fun to do. It's fun to shop. It's not fun to spring clean. And so now it's time to spring clean and organize, put labels on stuff, gang. What stays, what goes. And boy, as we get on the other side of this over the next 18 months, we're ready for the next 30 years. And I hope you can hear the excitement in my voice, because I sincerely believe that now we and I will be serving our internal talent as well as we have always served our external members. And that's going to unlock the next level.
Thanks for sharing the truth with us, Julian. And the way it started was a very sexy version of it. We grew, we're kicking ass, we're the best. Here is where we're at. So loved it. Thank you so much for sharing this. Julian Scadden, ladies and gentlemen. Julian, if people want to find out more about you, about Nexstar, see what you guys do, where should they go?
Well, thank you for that. And as I segue into that, I want to encourage you all to keep listening to the Principal Podcast. From what I've seen and the ones that I've followed, succinct, tight, relevant. And I can tell you right now, in the podcast universe, I don't have time for your 3-hour pontification. I really appreciate you. And I don't mean you, I mean others. And, I know some people enjoy that, but I'm just going to speak from one perspective. Nexstar Network, where can you find us? Okay, so the name is nexstarnetwork.com. If you find Nexstar Network Media Group, that's not us. So if they start talking about programming and satellite and dish, that's a whole nother Nexstar Network. If you see us talking about the tradespeople, plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical, that's us. Find us on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's where my social presence is. Someone pointed out that there are like 3 different Facebooks of me. I think I created them to get coupons somewhere. I'm never active on there. So if you actually want to engage with me, go to LinkedIn. I do respond. I do read. I also put thoughts for business leaders on Substack, which is a platform where you can do a little bit of a long form blog. So I'm going to shamelessly plug that too. But it's meant for the smaller business owners. It's meant to challenge you. It's meant to inspire. It's meant to be additive. But reach out. We'd love to help you regardless what industry you're in. We want to elevate the community, bring small business unity back, and understand that you're all stronger together than you are competing. We're going to compete regardless, but why not have some principles and ethics, because we're all here to serve the community. My 2 cents.
Amen to that. Just to make sure people don't head to Nexstar Media Group, we'll put all the links in the description. I can say one thing for sure, Julian, is that you've gained at least 1 new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. I just added you. Thank you so much for coming on the Principal Podcast.
Thank you. Stay principled, y'all.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Principal Podcast. We hope you learned valuable strategies to grow your firm and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time. How was that, Julian?
Thank you. You made it easy.